welcome. I am really pleased that the city of Goodyear has partnered with me to bring these programs to you guys. And this, like she said, this is our, I think, our third or fourth month now. And then if you'll join us in September, that would be awesome. So we've got this tonight, we've got one on Saturday, and I'll talk more about that toward the end, what we're doing on Saturday morning. Okay, so we're here to do a prickly pear. Where I live, there's a plethora of them. I got them in the front yard, backyard. I think they even extend all the way to West Texas. So if you are anywhere in the Southwest, you will see the prickly pear. And what's really wonderful about them is several times out of the year, they bloom. So they are fun to see them come alive with color, and they don't look so daunting with all their thorns. However, I do think they're pretty sculptural, don't you? And I think they look like little hand pads. I've done several pieces of art around this image, and it has inspired me to do some of my fiber art as well. So I've studied it up close. There is an actual pattern going on with those thorns, believe it or not. Fibonacci runes again. So we're not gonna worry with the patterning today, but we are gonna have fun doing some dots and dashes, and as usual, I like to slash a little bit on there. So with that, let's get started. You should have some brushes, and it came to me during our survey that someone was asking about brushes, like what brushes are good to have, what size brushes. I'm using some pretty big size brushes. Not only are they long handled because I'm standing, but they're also big. You're probably not working so big with your brush. You've probably got a smaller head. This one is a number 8, I believe, but these are 12s. These are really big. So the higher the number, the bigger the brush. You might even be working with a 6 or a 4. And they feel different. I have one that feels soft. This is a synthetic or a stable brush. And I have one that's a bristle brush, otherwise known as hog's hair. So I have 2 types. I use this one first, the rough one, to do the background because it holds more paint. The soft one I use for the more details and doing all of the up close stuff because it's soft and I have more control with it. They're both are good to have on hand, no matter the size. I have paint. Hopefully you have acrylic paint. Maybe some of you are going to do it in watercolor, which is fine, or maybe you're going to use pastels. Whatever you have at home, there's no reason to have to do it in acrylic, but I am going to be working in acrylic today. And I have all the primary colors. I have red, blue, yellow, and some white. White's not really a color, but it definitely lightens things up. We're going to be able to make the green with the blue and the yellow, and we're going to be able to make the orange with the red and the yellow. So we've got that. We've got lots of paper towels. I have a Yucky cup because I don't want to mistake that with my drinking water. And I haven't talked about this before, but I like to keep a spray bottle on hand. So when my paint kind of starts to dry up, I've been sitting here for an hour or whatever, I give it a little squirt to hydrate it. If you don't finish tonight and you need some more help, more work, stick another plate. I'm working on a plate. I put another plate on top, stick it in a gallon bag, and it'll stay for a couple of days. Put it in the fridge, it'll stay all week. Just make sure it doesn't say, make sure it says paint so somebody doesn't think it's ketchup and mustard in there. That won't be very fun. Okay, with that, let's get started. So I'm going to actually use my hog's hair brush first. And I'm going to mix up some orange. We're going to do the background, but I'm also going to draw the pads of the prickly pear in my orange, right? So I'm going to take yellow and red and mix them up and make myself a nice little orange. Just a little bit for now that I can draw with. I'm going to draw with that. You could use chalk to draw with or charcoal or a pencil, but I want it to show up for you. And I'm going to be painting nature. Nature's always organic and no straight lines, right? So I like odd numbers. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pads to my cactus, and then I have a flower. So there's my 5 objects. So I've got a big one over here. You might be working on a smaller canvas than me. I'm working on a big canvas so that you can see it. And I think that an 8 by 10 or a 9 by 12 that you've got in your hand, you'll easily be able to do this project in an hour and a half. So here's my big pad here. I'm going to put another little guy over here. I love engaging the edges, right? I'm going off the edge of the canvas. It just makes it seem bigger, makes the plant seem bigger. I'm going to put another little guy. Oh, he's kind of medium sized right here. He's going to overlap on top of this one. But look at this negative space I'm creating, right? So this is interesting. This becomes like my little leader line into the painting. So I love it when you can create interest with your composition. And we haven't talked much about composition. All right, so here's another little guy. He's gonna be right there. And now my bloom can just fit here when I'm ready. Yes? So speaking of the bloom's gonna be right in here somewhere. So I'm just planning it. I'm just planning where it's gonna go. All right, so now let's mix up some more orange with that bristle brush, and we're just going to paint the negative space. Right now, I'm going to paint it all. And you notice how I'm going every which way. I'm not really concerned with the direction of the brush because it is the background to the painting. And I can paint wet on wet. I don't have to mix it all ahead of time. I can easily just keep on painting right onto the canvas surface. It's going to get covered and muddied up with other stuff, so it's kind of nondescript right now as to brush stroke and trying to get things smooth. I don't need to get it smooth. I just need to get some paint on the canvas. That's the hardest thing, I think, as an artist, is just to get started and not be intimidated by a big blank white canvas. Yes, it helps to know how to draw, and I encourage you whenever you get a chance to take some drawing lessons. But think of things as shapes. See, this is just a big oval. It's daunting when you look at that and say, how am I going to paint that cactus? Well, don't call it a cactus, just call this thing an oval. So it's much easier. All right, so I'm just going to keep filling in around here. And yes, I'm going to go over some of the lines. I know that flower is going to fit in there just nicely. Sometimes the prickly pears aren't yellow. Sometimes they're that beautiful magenta color. I chose to do this in orange just because fall is coming up, and this will be a nice painting for my fall decor. But if you were doing this in springtime, you might want to do that pink flower, or if you just like pink. They bloom white too. They're just a lot of fun. Just covering your canvas. Put everything on there. You're probably already finished. And I got a bigger canvas I got to cover here. By the way, if you need help with getting supplies, you're just not quite sure what to get, what size brushes, what size canvas, I believe, and we'll talk about it on Saturday morning and after this class, that I can get a kit together for you. So please know that is a possibility. Sometimes it's just hard to get it all together by the time we're supposed to paint. But you can use anything, right? You can use an old canvas and just paint over it. You don't have to have something fresh and new. All right, so I've got all of my negative space filled, and now these are going to be my, it looks like this is the negative space because I haven't put anything in there yet, but I'm about to put something in there, so I'm excited about that. Okay, so how do we make green? This is like going back to kindergarten days, right? I'm excited about that. always the fun part for me was in art was in school was doing art. Now they don't get to do it as much. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm taking my yellow and my blue and I'm making a grassy green. Now your green might look a little different just depending on what type of blue you're using. I'm using a phthalo blue, ultramarine blue is the same thing, and I'm using a cad yellow. So those are the ones that are mostly prevalent. So I'm trying to use what I think you would find when you're buying stuff at the store. Okay, I'm just going to put that green on now where all the pads are, where all of my opals are. And again, I'm not too worried with the direction. I usually tell you to paint the way something grows or flows. But since this is just layer number 1, I am not worried how it's going on right now. Now, I think this is looking a little too green, so I'm going to add, or too grassy green, more blue just to darken it a little bit. So I want my prickly pear to be dark. You can adjust your green by how much blue or how much yellow you use. I'm just kind of roughing the edges here, going around with my hog's hair brush, my bristly brush. It is a piece of nature, so it's going to be a little bit bumpy on the edges anyway. Okay, so obviously it doesn't look like this one yet. This one has 3 shades of green on it, but this one just has that 1 shade of green more or less. So yeah, it's going to look a little different. This is a work in progress. Well, let's go to another one. We're just filling them in. I think this one happens to be my most favorite subject of all of them that we've been doing. It makes me happy. You'll notice as it goes over the orange that you kind of get a different color there. That's okay. We have a source of light that's going to make things different colors anyway. And you're going to be choosing where your light's coming from as we put another layer on there. All right, I'm going to go to the third one. We're just moving on, getting paint on the canvas. We're not intimidated now. Okay, these things can really hurt if you get up close to them, by the way. They do have little thorns. You can paint the edges of your canvas. You know, you can go along the edge and paint it if you want. I happen to love to do that because then I don't have to go to the framing store and then put a frame around it, right? So it has a little, I just go ahead and extend it around the edges. So that I could just kind of prop it up on the mantle or give it away as a gift, and I didn't spend a whole lot of money. I mean, it can cost you a lot of money just for the framing. So feel free to, now if it has staples, if your board has, or your canvas has staples, sometimes I'll use like a medium called pumice, the same thing you use to clean your pool, and cover up those staples. So you can email me and I'll tell you more about that. If you have a canvas board, meaning it's just a board, it doesn't wrap around, the material doesn't wrap around, it's just a board, that's great. That's a real easy thing to pop into a stock frame. And if you're painting on canvas pad, right? It's just the material that you can tear one out of a pad of canvas. Those are nice too. You can stretch them later onto a piece of wood. You can paint on board, just a wooden board. Acrylic paint will stick to anything, including your clothes. So I always wear an apron. And yes, I was crazy. I've got white pants on today. So if I get anything on me, it's what I get for coming straight here from something else. Now I've got 3 pads done. That was pretty fast. And I got a little one here that kind of got covered up, but he's there. He's there. It's like we got the whole family of dad and a mom and a teenager and a youngster right here. Okay? I'll get him a little closer to the flower. All right. Now, what I haven't decided yet is which pad is on top, right? So I have not, but because it's so flat looking right now, I can't tell if this pad is behind this one, is this one on top of this one, but we will distinguish that by where we put the other colors of green. So we'll make those decisions soon. All right, so we also have these little baby guys, these little sprouts that are coming off. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 little guys. So I have 1 on this one. I call them little thumbs. So I'm going to put a thumb here. I got a thumb there. If you have any questions at all, just type it in and she'll feed it to me. I won't see your name or the question. She'll just say it to me and I can just answer it. And you can be anonymous. All right, there's one. I'll put one up here off this guy. There's one. Oh, 2 down here. This is, I love how this kind of, I set it up so that there was, you're traveling through this area. That's kind of why I did that. You have to think about where you put things. I want my eye to stay focused here. I didn't want to put any over there. You can, if you want. There are reasons you do things. Some of it just becomes more intuitive as you paint more often. Okay. And observe. Observe, go out in nature and observe. A good artist observes a lot. Okay, I'm just kind of putting a second coat down here on this big guy. You can't keep going over it and over it and over it. You're going to have to let something dry and then come back to it, especially if you're working in watercolor. You cannot keep going over it and making it darker. You're just going to rub a hole in a paper with watercolor. With this, because yellow is transparent and yellow and blue make the green, you can tell that it doesn't quite fill in so solid. It's just the nature of yellow. So that's why I'm having to put some more on there now that it's a little dry. So I'm just going to put a second coat on this one. If it has more blue in it, then it's going to have better coverage. You see how that covers much better than one that has more yellow in it. I know, all this science to color. Okay, just filling in this guy, filling in the teenager here. All right. A little more down here on this one. what? I think I'm going to go ahead and just do blue right on top of the green and go ahead and make that darker at this point. I'm just going to paint. This is called painting wet on wet, because it wasn't quite dry, and now I'm just putting dark down here in this corner by just putting blue over what I already had. Let's try that on this one, because I want the bottoms of these where the light's not hitting them to be darker. So I'm just putting blue right over my green because it's wet. It's mixing and making a nice foresty dark green. It's making a nice green. Okay, but with this one, I need to make a decision. I have to decide with this one. Remember I told you I have to decide what's on top. Well, in this picture, this pad, this one here, is on top of this one, and here it's on top of this one. So I'm going to go ahead and make this dark down here. So he's going to be sitting on top of this guy. Yeah, now I can see where they are. And this one's going to be behind, so it's going to be dark right there. Can you see that? There's a difference between this one and this one, because I made this darker. And then I'll make the top of this one lighter. And how do I do that? Shall we try? Yes, yeah. And now I can't hear you. I'm used to painting with people in person. So. Okay, so I'm going to just put a little yellow now on my brush. I didn't clean it. I just wiped it just down a little bit. And I'm going to put a little yellow on my green pad that's still wet. But this would be great in watercolor because you're just working wet on wet. Yes, I'm going to use my hand a little bit, smudge it around. Okay, so now I can really tell that this one is on top of that. So while we're at it, let's put a little yellow on this one. And yes, I got some white into my yellow. So I'm making kind of a limey color for the top of this pad. Still kind of going every which way. Now at this point, if you want to switch brushes and go for that, the more sable and the round brush, right? It's softer, like makeup brush. We can switch to that right now. It'll just make things go a little bit more smooth, less rough. And because the cactus is round, it's nice to paint with a round brush. So always try to match your brush type, flat or round, with what you're painting. So if I was doing a bench post, I would get a sable flat brush, but I'm doing nature, I'm doing a round object. So I'm going to paint with a round brush. Okay, look at that. Okay, he's got a lighter top. I'm going to go over here and do this guy with a lighter top. Lighter side too. I think my light's going to be coming from over here, my sun from my window behind me. It's kind of my clue. So my sun's going to be hitting this side of the cactus. I'm just going to lighten that up now. Again, all I did was put a little more yellow into my green. Or you can add a little white. White will help the transparency problem. And since there's the top of this little guy up here, I'm going to put some up there. Okay, so let's go move to one of the other ones now. How about this guy? Let's put some more yellow on him. This is really fun when you do this project in a group, or if you're a husband and wife team, or a grandmother and their grandchild, because you can see how you can line them all up. But this looks like you have this big cactus plant in the front yard. So now we have to call it cacti because we have more than one. It's so fun to line them all up. So I gave the little baby one a little bald spot, gave him some yellow on top, like the sun's hitting it. Maybe I'll give it a little more white to that yellow. And now we're really seeing volume happening. We're seeing things pop in and out of the plane, which is what we want to do. We can continue to do that by adding a whole nother layer of that. So, but before I go and do that, I want to work on the flower. I'm going to get you started on the flower here. So I'm washing off my brush because I had too much green on it. I'm using the round brush, and I'm going to mix just white and yellow together. Why? Because yellow is too transparent. And you need to put that white in there to help it make it more solid. So I'm making kind of a lemon yellow for my first layer. If you were in my flower class from the very beginning, I think we did that in May. I told you you could draw a flower like spokes on a wheel. So if this is the center of your flower, which I'm not going to keep it yellow, I'm going to probably make it white, but so you can see it. I'll put a dot here. All right, so I'm going to just make some spokes on the wheel. You don't have to count how many. All right, so I just made it look like a spider. Yes. And now what I'm going to do is draw ovals around the spider legs. That simple. That's the easiest way for me to show you how to draw a flower. That's going to be a nice big bloom, bigger than my other ones. Okay, and you can see some of the orange is coming through. I kind of like some of the orange in the background because the flower has multiple colors. It's not just a solid color. It has light and the veins and caterpillars and things that are bugs that have been all over it. And if you've seen one up close, it's very, very lacy and thin. So you might see other colorings in there. Okay, I'm just going to kind of let that dry. I'm washing my brush off because I'm just going to use pure white here in the middle. So I put a white dot in the middle. I'm not worried about all these little holidays that I have going there because I'm going to eventually fill those back in with something. So, hope y'all are doing well. I don't have any questions yet. Okay, so I'm going to let Rosie speak for just a second about what we have upcoming, and I'll let you go ahead and start while she's speaking and listening. We can add another layer onto our cactus tags, okay?
Awesome. So this Saturday we do have a PJs in Art class at 9 a.m. So I hope to see you all there. I will be sending out that registration link along with some other links. We have some tipping links that Deborah provides for us to donate to her. She uses those donations for supplies. Um, and to keep providing these wonderful classes for us. So I will send those tipping links along with the registration link for Saturday if you have not yet registered. And then I am also going to add our virtual exhibit link on that email. And I do find it easier to send it all in one email, but if you have a preference, let me know. I can continue to add them in the chat box if that's easier for you. But just let me know. I will also include a survey. We've gotten some great feedback, and that's really helpful. So just please continue to give us that feedback so that we can keep providing the highest quality classes for you. So it's looking really nice so far. I hope you're enjoying, and I hope you continue to enjoy the rest of the class.
Thank you, Rosie. I think too, we want to remind you too that submit your artwork when you're done. You can email Rosie and myself, and you can be a part of a gallery. So because I can't see your work, I'd love to see what you're doing, and other people would love to see what you're doing. So we created, the city created a gallery that it's virtual, and you can kind of walk through there and see everybody's paintings from this class and other classes. And it wouldn't be complete without your art in there. So you don't have to put your name. You could be anonymous. Just put your initials or something if you don't want us to know who you are. And you can put a title. You can title your art. That's fun. So it's fun to go look. You have to go look. Go on the city's website, and you can walk through the gallery that's already up there. So thank you, City of Goodyear. Okay, so while we were chit-chatting, I stuck another third layer on these pads. And now I'm gonna move back up to the flower while this is drying. In acrylics, you have to kind of move around everywhere, let things dry. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my beautiful yellow bloom and add a little more paint to the top of it, so it's more opaque. And now I could just use straight on yellow to show up now that I have a solid layer underneath the white. Oh, I like that I got a little orange in that one. Okay. Now, we don't want to forget these little guys, these little thumbprints, right? So make sure that you give them a little bit of love by giving them a little bit of bright tips to their fingers. Just a little bit. Get this a little more yellow up there. Yes, I do use my hands. You could be using a napkin too, you know. I just wanted to smudge that out a little bit more. So, okay, now I'm going to go back and dirty up the background. So the background, I want to be just a little less solid. You know, there might be some things going on in the sky, or maybe it's the wallpaper behind there. I don't know, but I definitely want to dirty this up a little bit. So I'm going to mix up some red with a tad of blue, and I'm going to get that ugly little brownish color, like a maroonish color. But I'm trying to just get a little bit darker value of a red violet. And I'm just going to muddy that back here. I'm not going to put much paint on my brush at all. And I'm going to put it in some key areas. I don't want to put it everywhere, and I still want that beautiful orange shining through. I call this scumbling, because you can still see what's the color underneath. And I'm going kind of every which way. Again, not just very descript. That's where I can fill in some of my little gaps, or things I left out. can shape up around the flower a little bit. These are all these tricks that acrylic artists do. Work in progress. Okay, but I also want to have something lighter than the orange. I don't want to just have something darker than the orange. So I'm going to make an orange and add a little white. So we get kind of that tangerine color. So I'm going to have some yellow, some red, and some white. See, I just mixed it right on this paper. I'm using a foam plate. A paper plate would get too soggy. And this is really sturdy for me to hold. You know, you could have one of those fancy wood pallets, but honestly, I don't want to clean it every time. I mean, I'm wasting water just trying to clean it every time. So I love that I have this that I can even keep as a record. So once it dries, I can kind of know, I can label the back and say this was my prickly pear and I know what I was doing and used it for. So you can even stack them up and keep them around for a bit. Okay, so that one needs a little more yellowy white to it. Just some more interest in my painting. Now I feel like I'm speed painting here, huh? I want to go a little bit faster just so it doesn't dry before I get to move it around. I call this dirtying up the canvas. Adding a little interest. And hide any little happy accidents, you know. Anything like that. So I've dirtied up this a lot. And I wanted to do that before I do all my thorns and things, because otherwise I'd have to go and do all that around all my cool thorns. So I wanted to do that now. Okay, awesome. All right, now I'm going to add just a hair of some yellow blooms to my little thumbs. So I want to have, like they're budding, these little buds coming out. So I got to give each of these a little bud. So I'm just fairly gently, I've got yellow on my brush and white on my brush. Yay, they're coming to life. There they are. They're ready to bloom. They just haven't bloomed yet. We're having fun. All right, now I'm going to go work on the flower again. Just kind of moving around the canvas. I'm calling August my botanical month because if you join me on Saturday morning at 9 a.m., we are going to be painting a lovely thorn and thistle painting. So hopefully you can join in for that. And this is a saguaro up close. I'll talk about it right at the end again. But that would be fun to do together. So we got 2 cactuses this week. I hope you could join in because we don't have another class till September the 10th. So join me Saturday. Okay, let's keep going here. Let's put some white tips, and I'm barely touching the canvas. So I have very little paint on the brush, right? I didn't like put it in the white. I put it in the white, and I'm just putting it on the cute little tips of my flower to make it glow, especially where the light's hitting it. Mr. Sun's coming from over here. So I'm going to put it mostly on the top or left side of the petals. What does that mean I need to do on the opposite side of the petals? Well, I need to go make a darker yellow, or why don't we just put a little limey green in there? Well, I'm out of green, so we're going to have to make some. I never like to pour more paint than I need. You can tell I poured way too much red, and that's going to be wasteful. So you try not to pour as much. You can always put more on there as you need it. A little green, maybe some green veins in there. Barely touching it. If you want to switch to a smaller, even smaller brush like a 2 or a 0, you can do that for these smaller little marks if you feel like you don't have as much control with the big one. But the big one will work just fine. It's just how much paint you put on the brush and how much pressure you apply. If I push really hard with on there, I get a thick line. But if I don't press real hard, I get a nice thin line. So you get to control that with your brush. That's what's nice. You can really have any brush and be able to control it. Okay. As you learn, it takes a while. It takes a while to know how much pressure you get. And I am painting with my arm or not painting with my wrist. I don't have enough motion with my wrist. But with my arm, I have lots of range of motion. With my adapted students, I have figured out a way to like put the brush in a styrofoam ball, and they can just hold the ball and move it around. So just know that there's other ways to be able to create. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of dirty up the flower, if you will. Give it some character marks, maybe give it a little bit of red. Right around the center, so that bee, if he's brave enough to get close to that cactus. All right, and I also want to have a little white dabs in there. And then I'm going to have some seeds right in the middle of that cacti flower. So I'm just going to have some little limey green dots that I'm just poking little dots at it. Okay. Now the opposite of yellow, if you look at a color wheel, the opposite of yellow is purple. So if I take a little bit of my yellow, put some red and blue with it, I'm mixing opposites. I'm mixing yellow and red and blue make purple. And I put those together, I get an interesting color. That I can put right around the center of that flower. As kind of some shadowing. So it's nice to have a color wheel. Eventually you'll want to invest in one of those, or just download one off the internet so that you can study color mixing and what looks good together. See, purple and yellow look really nice together. Just like this red, orange, and this color green look well together. Or think about Christmas colors that go good well together. Think about your sports teams, you know, like turquoise and orange. And I guess there's purple and gold, right? Gold close to yellow. Okay. See, I was good. I didn't even name all the sports teams. Okay, So we got a flower going here, and now we're gonna get the little buds. They need something coming off of them too, so they're gonna get kind of a little red seed or dot coming off of them. You're gonna be going up close now and studying them. Don't get too close, you might fall into one like my daughter did when she was little. And pluck all those little things out. Okay, so I kind of gave them a little character mark. Yes, just a little bit of something on there. Now we need to give the pads character. We kind of left them out, and it's time to give them some pizzazz. So I told you that there's actually a pattern. There's like a crisscross pattern, just similar to our palm and our pineapple that we've done before. But we're not going to do the pattern today for the sake of time. But we are going to make some little soldiers that are going every which way for all of our thorns. My thorns are done in several different colors. I love color. I think it's fun. If you just want to have white thorns and a couple of shadowy thorns, maybe in purple, that's fine. But I have a purple that I made up, purpley red, more red violet, and I have turquoise, and I have or teal that you'll be able to make, and white. I don't think there's any other color in there. Maybe some pink, maybe white mixed with the red violet, maybe a little bit of pink. So that's fun. Okay, so I'm gonna get a fresh plate here. I've got some white on here and some green I've already mixed up. Not that I need much green anymore, but I do need some yellow because I'm out of yellow. Just a little bit, because I might have a few little yellow pieces coming up. I'm just gonna do, oh gosh. All right, see, I poured a lot of that. That was way too much mustard. Okay, but I do need that red, so we get the red back over here and plop some of that on there. And I need blue. They do make palette knives that you can use for mixing and for painting with. I'm just using my brush for the sake of, that's probably all you have handy. You could use a popsicle stick too. Okay, so I have red, blue, yellow. Those are my primaries. I have some green I've already made up ahead of time. And I have my white here. So I'm going to make my thorn colors. Well, how do you make teal? So you've got some green. You've got some yellow. That's making that lighter green. And if I keep adding blue to it, I'm going to get a teal blue. But I'm going to add white to it now. And look at what I made. Ah, I get teal. So you don't have to go buy all the colors. Yeah, you don't want to buy all the colors. Yes. Okay, now I got to do it like a red violet. So it's going to be mostly red with a tad of blue. Oh, look, there it is. Red violet right there. Okay. And if I want to have a pink, maybe I want some kind of pink thorns. So white and red, I could have some pink thorns. Yes? So I'm just getting prepared for all my thorn colors because I'm going to go thorn happy in just a minute. So I'm trying to get all my colors in a row, not ducks in a row, all my colors in a row. All right, so we're going to start with the darkest one first. Let's start with the white. If I start with the white one, it might get covered up by a dark one. So I'm going to start with the darker one first. And that's going to be my red violet. I mean, darker value is what I'm looking at. Okay, so I'm going to just start barely touching the canvas, and they're going every which way. Some of them go off. You have to know too when to stop. Less is more. So you might be getting a little too thorn happy. I would say, once you've got about half a dozen to 15 of one, go to the next one. So I'm just dashing my way around this one, adding thorns. Some of them go off the pad, right? They go into the background plane. Don't just keep them on here and forget to do some that stick off of the cactus. I hope you're having fun. I really do. This is this is so great in nature to be able to do something so organic, that you're just kind of dotting and dashing everywhere. Just fun. Okay, now I'm going to go to the next lightest, which would be the teal, lightest in value. Right? Oh, this makes all the difference, adding that teal in there. And hopefully, if you missed something, just go back and review the YouTube channel for the City of Goodyear's Arts and Culture, and you can replay all of this. I don't know if it'll be up right away. It usually takes a day, but check back in. What's nice that you joined me tonight is that you can ask questions and you'll be able to share your art with me towards the end because I'd love to see it. Whereas if you connect on YouTube, I can't connect with you. You can leave comments there. You can leave some comments, but I can't connect live. All right. So now I'm putting teal. I'm just going around to each of the pads. I already did the red violet, and now I'm doing the teal. Just like little soldiers marching around, kind of going in different directions, going off the plane sometimes. Some are fatter than others, some are closer, so they're a little bit fatter. Some are really short, thin thorns. Try to say thin thorns 5 times. Yeah, oh my gosh, I love these. I really think they add lots of character, lots of depth. I can't wait to see yours. Okay, going up here to the little baby guy. Gotta give him some. Wow, okay, gotta give him some. Yep, and now I have to just go to maybe some of the pink ones. I think I throw a few pink ones in there. I'm not going to do as many pink because that's a pretty bold color. I mean, it stands out on this green. We'll do a half dozen or so. And then, of course, white, which is what they really look like, kind of a whitish gray. And I'm going to concentrate a lot of those in the light area for sure, where the sun's hitting them and they're glistening. But I'm going to have a few down in I have done this painting quite a few times. I keep selling the original one, so I have to keep redoing it. So if you've seen it around town or something, you have one of them. If you've seen somebody's got one of them. Now you got your own. Now you got your own. Okay. And soon you'll get to see a traffic cabinet that I created. I painted some ginormous cacti on that thing. You get to see that. I do like drawing the botanicals. Okay, so they're all getting kind of hairy. They're getting lots of little pricks on them. But don't forget the little guys, the little buds. So they need some tiny little ones. They gotta have a few little white thorn things. Because we don't want some animal coming up and biting on these right before they're about to bloom. Okay, so they're getting some. Okay, so now everything has got some confetti going on, right? And now what I want to do is add a little confetti to the background, right? I want to, it's nice in art if you have some kind of dominance. And in this case, the dominance happens to be the texture of the cacti. So you want to add a little more texture to the background, just as a repetition of line type or shape. We'll call the thorn a line, a short line. So in the background, I only used teal because I didn't want the white to pop forward. I wanted the white, we want the background to recede, not come forward. So that's the reason that I stuck with kind of a darker color for the background. So I need to make up some more teal. So let's just repeat the teal again. It's going to be a little more yellow. The green I mixed up. Mostly blue. I'm getting that dark blue, green again. And if I add white, I've now got a pretty teal. Okay, so I'm just gonna add a few of the same kind of thorn looks. I could have splatter painted. You've watched me splatter before, but this time I'm just using the brush because I want to repeat this kind of look. I just love it. See, now you know what makes me tick here, or what my thought processes are. And you too will have some unique style that you like to repeat all the time as you start to paint more and more. You maybe already have that. Maybe you do little hearts everywhere. You know? Wow, and you got to know when to stop, right? Like, I don't want to make this so overwhelming back there. In fact, I might have gotten just too many already. I kind of got a little happy. So quickly, I'm going to erase a couple. They're still wet. I can take a wet towel and get rid of a couple of them. Just lighten them. It's not too much. And finally, of course, we have to sign our work. Don't you want to sign your work? Of course you do. I always encourage you to sign because years from now, when we're long gone or whatever, they want to know, who did that beautiful painting? And don't put it in the closet from now to later. Enjoy it right now. Enjoy your work. I'm going to sign mine down here in the pad. Try not to sign your work at the very edge, left and right, because then what happens? You frame it and then your name gets covered up. So try to go at least a half inch into the painting when you sign your work. I think it's important. You don't have to date it, but you can put the date on the back if you like. Well, I think I'll just use some yellow. Put my name on there. And again, for those of you who are my younger crowd, the art is not about your name, right? It's just a documentation. So you don't want the name to be the big focus. And it takes a while for the younger crowd to kind of get that, right? Because we're always told, put your name on your paper before you start. And there are times when word art, it is about the word or your name. So that's always a fun thing to do too. So I can't wait to see your work. Let me talk about this Saturday. So Saturday morning, 9 o'clock Arizona time, we are doing PJs and art. That means you can come in your PJs, get your coffee. I know it's early. Just come, bring a canvas. and you can paint what I call thorn and thistle. So we're gonna do more of those thorns like we did today, right? But they're gonna be in more of a pattern and not so haphazard everywhere. And then you're going to have little thistles marching across the barrel of a saguaro. So this would be a saguaro up close. And this is a thistle that got either stuck to it or that's in front of it. So I think that's going to be fun to do another cacti. Um, I can't wait to see what you come up with. I mean, I think this is going to be probably one that if you haven't finished, you'll keep going because you'll want to make this one of your masterpieces that you're really proud of and excited. So with that, I hope to see some of your work. So I'll let Rosie unmute some of you, or at least show, if you want to show your work, just pick it up and put it in front of me. Yeah, look at that, Robin, that's beautiful.